Here we are today. We've got a power steering leak problem. Now what we found, let's grab the torch. The customer actually, you can see down there on the return line, he's tried to nip it up, it's leaking there. Now if you actually touch that hose, it's on the return line, which is a low pressure line. It's hard as a rock. Now sometimes these harden over time because the manifold's right here. This is on a V6 Holden Commodore. They're pretty much the same on any vehicle. They have a high pressure line and a return line that goes from the power steering pump down to the rack. So what we're going to do is we're going to suck the oil out of it with our vacuum pump. Just makes it a little bit less messy. Then we'll remove the bottom hose, let any oil leak into the tray that's underneath the hoist there, and loosen the top one here and replace that hose. Now you can see that should be quite nice and pliable like that one. It's hard as a rock, so there's not much you can do. Even nipping it up sometimes will further crack the hose if it's too hard and brittle, so we need to replace the hose. That bottom hose off, very hard because the hose is so brittle, and now we're just going to undo the top one, and we're going to use the old hose as a guide for the length for the new hose. Just try and pop that off. I need to lever it off a bit. The leaking hose. You can see here it's actually been rubbing as well, so it wouldn't have been long before that rubbed through anyway. But the hose is very hard and brittle. We'll just replace it with a 3/8 automatic transmission hose, because the power steering takes those hoses, or 10mm, 3/8 or 10mm. We'll just use this old hose just as a measure, and replace the clamps as well with some heavy duty clamps. These we find that they break after a while if some people over tighten them. One, they dig into the hose. As you can see, this one's been really tightened up, and I assume the bottom one would have been the same. Sometimes the tighter you tighten it, the more it'll leak, because it's actually cutting into the hose, or it's actually spreading the split in the hose if there is a split in it. Transmission hose, or a suitable hose that'll is applicable to power steering. Don't forget to put this hose clamp on before you sort of push it down. There's not a lot of room there. It'll just make it easier to slide on. And also, even if you find which little socket fits on that, sometimes it's easier to tighten it up with a little socket than with a screwdriver. Now we've put the bottom hose on, and we just need to pull it through a little bit, just so it's got a little bit of flexibility there, so it's not pulling tight on itself. When we put a hose clamp on the top one, just make sure it's hasn't got any sharp bends in it, or too short or even too long. If it's too long, it'll probably rub where it shouldn't be. And now we'll just trim off this at the desired length here, and put a hose clamp on, refill it with oil, and away we go. Anyway, hope that's helped somebody. Thank you for watching. Forgot to mention, in this case, the power steering should be checked at operating temperature with the motor running as well. Okay, cheers.